Welcome to Women in Leadership, where we talk all things feminine leadership. If you are a female in a leadership role or aspire to be one, this is it, girl. You found your tribe. Join us as we chat about the perks and shortcomings of leadership in our spheres of influence. Grab your bestie and a coffee. Let's see what the Holy Spirit has to say about your journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Women in Leadership with your girl, Mona Lisa. Today I have with me a guest, a special guest. This is Lucy. Lucy and I go way back. She used to be in my unit when we were back at youth at our previous church. She was also a youth leader at some point. She's now in varsity. She's grown so much. And as you guys are aware, we are embarking on a series called Your Strategic Outlook on the New Year. So this one is for the varsity students. And that's why we have our special guest here, Lucy. All right, Lucy. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, like Mona said, my name is Lucy. I am a postgrad Bcom Law graduate. I'm currently doing my LLB at Wits University. I do ministry as well. So I'm a campus missionary. I do a lot of evangelism, just sharing the gospel on campus, shopping centers, anywhere you can really have me, I'm there. I am part of the National Spokesperson Advisory Board for the Black Lawyers Association as co-head of sponsorship. I work for Sisters in Suits, which is an NPO that focuses on women in law, for women, by women, and just, doing everything women related. And I work for Elevate Education. Yeah, that's me.
I love it. I love it. Women of many hats. And that's exactly why she's here today, because she's going to speak to us a little bit about her experience and her journey on campus, outside of campus with God. As you know, we are Bible girlies. We are Jesus girlies. So we cannot do anything in this life without Christ being the center of it all. So Luce, tell us a little bit about your faith background.
My faith background. So, like Mona said, I basically was in the same church as her. I grew up in the church from a very young age. I mean, I was a teacher's assistant from the age of 12, and then going on to youth ministry. I was there 16, became a youth leader. That was like my faith background, just kind of growing around the word, around people that love Jesus, seeing this kind of exemplified in their lives. And I was like, I want that. I need some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So tell us about your experience on campus.
My experience on campus. So I've been on 2 campuses, and both of them carry their very own unique experiences. Monash University, also known as IIEMSA, is very different. It's a private university. It's very small, so everybody kind of knows everybody. Everybody knows what you're about if they know you. You can't really hide, And so while I was on that campus, it was almost very hard and easy at the same time to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Because when I got to the campus, there were a few churches that were there, and everybody's like, oh no, come to church, come to church, come to church. But you kind of have to be so careful about that. So I would always pray to the Lord if I was invited to a church and say, hey, if I go here and your spirit is not here, I'm not coming back. I will leave mid-service, I'm not coming back. And that happened a few times until my second year, when I was invited to ENC, and I just walked in there and a lady looked at me and she said, you and me, we're going to do this. And she's been my mentor since.
Love it. Okay, great. So Lucy, tell us what life looks like on campus as a Christian girlie.
So life on campus, I think as a Christian girl, is very, very difficult to navigate when you don't have a good system and a net of people that are carrying your community on campus. Specifically because when you're trying to be Christian, you live by certain convictions,
yes,
right? So you are very aware of what the varsity life is kind of displayed as and introduced as. It's partying, it's sleeping around, it's all these different things that aren't necessarily Christian, right? And so when you're trying to do all of that in a space like this, it can look very self-righteous to the outside world.
Yeah.
You can look very judgmental to the outside world. You can look like you're trying to be better than everyone or holier than thou. But I think having a good net and system of people who speak truth into you and who teach you and kind of direct you into the right path to say, hey, no, look, you have those convictions, stick to them, live by them. But also when you're living by them to other people, you have to do it with love.
Yeah.
Right? You're not walking around just like, I know you were at that party, or I know you did this and I saw you do this. It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's living in love. It's discipling in love. It's just walking in love.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Living in love and discipling in love. You'd obviously have to be intentional about that, you know. So what is your go-to statement or go-to, let's say, mantra when you do campus ministry?
Okay. I believe in belonging before you believe. So creating a space where people feel like they can exist around you, they can hang around you, they can just be themselves around you, even if they don't share the same belief system as you at that point. Because I have found that, people have gone through a lot of stuff. People have church hurt. People have been introduced to Christianity at different levels. And so if you're going to just go in like, oh no, this is me, this is me, this is what's the truth, you're not going to do anything right for Jesus. Right? We know that he sat with people of different backgrounds, of different sins, and yet he never pointed out their sins. He made them understand and feel like they belong. And then through his own life, through his own example, were people changed by that. So when you're living in your convictions, you're living them out and you're loving people well, people will feel like, oh man, there's something different about her. And it has to be Jesus.
I love that. I actually like that you said that now, that you have to sort of portray the character of Jesus, because the next question I actually want to ask you is, do you think it's important as Christians to rep Jesus on campus?
Oh, 100%. 100%. There are so many things that are happening, right? And when we're talking about repping Jesus, we're not talking about screaming, the Mosaic prayer or, our Father on campus. But what we're talking about is your character. We're talking about the intentionality in which you love people. I mean, loving people is the most essential thing. We're talking about the integrity you carry, how you handle people. I mean, if you're frustrated with somebody, patience. Right? It's not easy to be patient. So that's a fruit of the Spirit. And so you're exemplifying Jesus. If you're gentle with people, if you're compassionate towards people, if you're loving, one of my favorite things is if you're interruptible. If you're walking on campus and you see somebody sitting on their own, and it's not like one of those chill sitting on your own, it's kind of like, she looks like she's going through something, or he's going through something, and you're interruptible enough to stop and say, hey, are you okay? I just wanted to just check in, are you fine? And then you kind of just go about your day. So I think that's how we rep Jesus, is our character, is how we speak to people, how we allow people in. That's repping Jesus.
All right. So we've touched on how you have to rep Jesus on campus, and basically being the character of Jesus on campus being important. You also mentioned how finding community is also important. How do I find that community on campus?
I think finding community on campus is hard because nobody's walking around saying, hey, I'm a Jesus lover, or hey, I go to church, or anything like that. And so I think finding community on campus starts in the secret place. I think it starts with praying for that community. It starts with saying to the Lord, hey, like, Jesus, I want to find people that are going to draw me closer to you, that are going to show me your ways. And then when you pray that prayer and you step out onto campus, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like, don't be afraid to have those little conversations with your classmates or just people that you're meeting, because that's how the Lord could bring you together. Just by like a simple conversation with somebody, and you're just like, oh man, we click, and then you find out that they're a Jesus lover, and then it just goes from there. Because you're not going to just find anybody just waiting there for you, and the angel of the Lord is going to come and be like, oh, here's your friend. So it's really praying about it and putting yourself out there and trusting the Lord to bring those right people for you.
I love that. And also, just to add, I think the part where you touched on praying about, as a believer and as having a relationship with Christ, he knows you, he knows what you like, he knows what you need. And starting at the Father is important, because he knows who the perfect friend or companion will be that you'll need. So yes, I love that, because it puts us back in an introspective place more than an outward heart. So that's great. So all right. Okay, guys. So as you all know, Lucy carries all these many hats, and she's done missionary on campus. She's also discipled some people online. She's partnered with people in Guatemala. And she's studying for law, which is a lot on her plate. But for the fact that she still considers God's work important while she's doing all these things is why we have her here. So she's got a word of encouragement for us today. And Lucy, you can just Take it away.
Yeah. So I mean, for my young people, and I think even maybe the women in the workspace, my word of encouragement, at least for me, something that's always been very close to my heart is Colossians 3:23, that says, "In whatever you do, do it like with your whole heart, doing it as unto the Lord and not for human masters."
Yeah.
I think that has really shaped the way in which I handle everything that I do, right? Because half the time, like with everything that I'm doing, my bosses aren't around, my lecturers aren't around, my parents aren't even around, right? But the one person who is constantly there is Jesus. And so if I'm doing everything as if I'm doing it for him, and because I am doing it for him, because the word says, for you, all things were created, and by you, everything was created.
Yeah.
And so knowing that everything that you do is for him will really shape how you go about everything. When I was applying for all the different positions and putting myself out there, I didn't start just from a desire to say, Lord, I want. I laid it out for him and I said, Lord, if you want me to do this, if you think this is the time for me to step out and actually start to hone the gifts that you've given me, challenge myself, and really learn who Lucy is in terms of my strengths and my weaknesses, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And immediately after that, I just felt so much permission from him to say, okay, step out. Like, let's go. We're going to do this. And so, yeah, just really be willing to pray for everything that you want, because prayer mentions you in rooms that you haven't even walked through yet.
Yes.
And
I love
that is the starting point. That is where we begin before we even step out physically. That is my encouragement for you. Pray, pray, pray. Wait for the Lord to say go, and he will like go before you and set everything in front of you.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Prayer mentions your name in rooms that you've never even walked in. Yeah. I love that. That's brilliant, guys. Let's touch a little bit on peer pressure. Peer pressure on campus. I mean, we know we talk about it in high school and primary school, but I think the campus pressure is a bit different. Especially because you're transitioning into an adult, you're transitioning into a different environment. It's bigger, there's a lot more broader people. What would you say
to peer pressure? Feeling that? I think number one, peer pressure doesn't stop. Right? It finds you everywhere, like primary school, high school, and then it finds you again in varsity.
Even at work.
It finds you. I think the thing that I would say to it is going back to the secret place. Because remember, I think it's in James where he talks about how our own desires entice us to sin, right? And so if we are seeking a certain level of validation or wanting to be accepted by people around us, we need to go to the secret place. We need to allow the Lord to perform heart surgery on us so that we don't fear man, but that we fear God. Right? I think it's a song by Sunday that says that I bow before God so that I can stand before man. And that is how we overcome peer pressure, is by having the fear of the Lord and not the fear of man. It's knowing that Jesus above everything else. Jesus. My life is to honor him. And so if you're being pressured to do something that doesn't honor him, walk away. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, I love that. Also because it convicts you and it repivots your thinking and your perspective.
100%.
And also because, I mean, if you're seeking validation from the world, then, you do need to go back to the drawing board, back to the secret place. And understand that your validation comes from God and God alone. If he accepts you, it doesn't matter if the world rejects you. Some of the greatest people we know from the Bible were rejected by the world,
100%.
but they did massive things for God. And that's our aim,
I want to add something to that, to actually say that, when we're seeking validation, it usually comes from a place of lack of purpose, right? So validation usually comes from wanting to do everything that everyone else is doing so you can be accepted. And something you're gonna go through a lot when you're in uni is feeling like, I don't know what direction I'm heading in. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm doing with life. And so you're going to want to be validated by the people that are around you. And so, like we're saying, go back to the drawing board, go back to the secret place to ask the Lord, I'm here. I'm not here by mistake. What is my purpose beyond this degree, beyond just studying here? Who have you already appointed for me to meet at this place? What have you already set before me to say, this is what I want you to do in your 4 years at Wits or your 4 years at UJ, right? So it's really saying, Lord, give me purpose. Let my purpose be to live for you and your kingdom.
I love that. So it's a why I'm here type of question. Why am I here? Why do I have the surroundings that I have? Nothing happens to us by mistake. And I think as believers, we do know that our steps are ordered. And the fact that he allowed the door to where you are to open, there's a reason and there's a purpose.
100%.
Find it, Yeah, and then do you have anything else that you'd like to encourage young girlies, especially first year students, on campus?
So I think my encouragement comes from, like for this specifically, comes from a very personal journey, right, with my degree. So I mean, when I decided to study law, this was something that just fell on my heart. I didn't really think much about it. Like, I didn't sit for a long time thinking about it, with my parents or even alone. And when I did it and I started to do the degree, it was amazing. Like, I love it so much. But we hear so many things about lawyers that they're liars and you have to be a corporate shark, you have to be arrogant. And so the degree was my own thing. I was kind of holding on to this thing like, Jesus, it's mine. I'm not giving it over to you. But once I gave Jesus lordship over my degree, it really transformed everything about it. When I understood that, Lord, even the good things in my life, such as degrees and the wonderful things we do, have to be laid down at the altar.
Yes.
Like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to lay my sin before the Lord and he's going to cleanse that. But even the good things have to be up for grabs for Jesus. You have to be willing to say, Lord, it's yours.
Yeah.
It has to be yours.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's been like for me with this degree, to say, Lord, whatever you want to do with it, it's for you, by you, through you, that I'm getting through this degree. So whatever you want to do, I'm laying it at the altar. I'm not holding on to it because my parents are excited that their daughter's going to be a lawyer, or my brother's going to be like, oh, we have a sister and she's a lawyer. But it's for you and for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like education and the Lord and are not separated from one another. We know this from the book of Daniel, where it says that the Lord had given them all wisdom and all kinds of literature. And so lay your degree down before the Lord. Let him guide what you do with it, how you go about it, because that will overcome the peer pressure, that will overcome the lack of purpose, that will overcome every single thing that everyone on campus is feeling when it comes to their degree. Like, is this the right decision? But when the Lord is involved, it will work out.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So just in summary, to sort of summarize what we've just chatted about, if you're a varsity student, whether it's your first time or your third, or however far you are in your sphere of influence, your strategic outlook on this year as a varsity student, we've highlighted quite a few, right? So the first one that she mentioned was find community, like-minded community that will lead you closer to Christ and not further away, right? And the number one thing for you to do that is prioritizing your secret place. So relationship with God is also important, and that's your next key. And then another key is laying down whatever you think you might be holding so high and mighty, whether it be your degree or it's your peers or the people around you. Lay it down at the foot of the cross. And that heart of surrender will get you elevated to where you need to be. And she also highlighted prayer, mentioning your name in rooms that you have never stepped foot in as yet. I think that is my new mantra for it, right? It's like she just gave me a motto, right? And I really think that, I hope that this encourages you as you step into your new journey in varsity. If it's not new, I hope it still encourages you either way. If you have any questions, drop it down. I mean, I don't think this is the first and only recording that we'll do. There'll probably be more. And then I'll bring her back here and then we can ask her all the questions that we have. So varsity students, don't be afraid to click that like button, share, and put some comments down below of what you guys would like us to unpack with your experience in your sphere of influence today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Women in Leadership. I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to bring your girlies, grab a coffee, or whatever it is, however it is that you listen to these episodes. Share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure that red button turns gray. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.